individual on the left hand walking by,
Yes.
you had no interaction with her at this point?
No.
You'd agree that this is at 123 and 17Z of your body camera footage?
Yes.
Yeah, I had my hand showing though, but Mr. Adam in the store about to be. Me too. You already know.
Who's Adam?
I spent my money. I paid for my phone. I was getting a laptop and it didn't work, so he gave me my funds back.
Okay.
You can come in and talk to him.
Okay, sure.
You mind if I get my little mask?
Where is it? What is it?
My COVID mask.
Where is it?
Right here.
Okay, go ahead.
Huh?
Go ahead. Let's make it quick. Face me.
Huh?
Face me.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I hope you motherfuckers don't get us in trouble for nothing. I can in trouble. I don't got no warrant. I don't give a fuck.
That's good. If you guys are no warrants or nothing, then after all this is settled, you guys good to go out.
All this is settled. Can't y'all just ask him?
Wait, don't you hear your friend talking? Yelling over there? I can see him yelling and talking. He's making
talk to the store person.
I'm waiting for my partners.
Yeah, for the store.
Gotta talk to my partners, see what's up.
He said he knew them too, so I was asking him, did he know him? He said I know him very well, all of them.
Floyd. You know Floyd?
Yeah, I'm talking about I know the people in the store very well.
Okay, that's good.
212 has the closest available. If you could start for an assault at next door to 2313 Washington Street Northeast. There's a black male assaulting a female. Copy.
Officer, I'm just gonna look right here at the door, just see if I left any wrong right here. Just see, sir. That's it.
All right, that's it, man, Ricardo. Just the door. All right?
Yeah.
Nobody's come close to us, so right now we don't need a mask yet.
Huh?
So right now nobody's come close to us, so we're good with the mask.
Oh, that he called her? Did he call her? Floyd called her? Huh? Is it a white girl? Yeah. She's short? Yeah, right here.
Stay put, guys. All right?
212
I want to be involved in that.
like suspect is sitting in the
You
suspect.
just let us go.
The victim is crying and the suspect has a gun. He can use a gun as a female.
They did something to him.
All right, let's stay here, all right?
All right, they did something because them motherfuckers taking pictures over there. Yeah, I'm on the phone. Man, everybody recording this shit, man.
Lot 330, EMS is at Portland and 36.
I don't know. I doubt it if he is. This guy here got us. Mr. Chief.
Copy, I was just giving you their updated location there. Stay around.
I wish Mr. Chain had just gonna let us walk in with him with Mr. Adam. Just goddamn.
Let's stay put here. All right, tell my partners and I'm done over there and they can figure things out. We'll figure things out, all right? Right now, we're grabbing an ambulance for your buddy, for Florida, okay?
Oh, fuck.
So he might have hurt himself.
They hurt him?
He might have hurt himself. All right? Who knows?
Hey, Floyd. Something happened. An ambulance here, everything. Can I just see what y'all did to him?
Shawana,
He on the ground and everything.
let's stay over here, okay?
He on the ground? Yes. Where? Right here. No, I was talking to the people.
Third precinct sergeant doing knowledge. 92602 Bloomington.
Shawanda. What was that?
I said, y'all go one of the store guys.
Okay, let's stay put. We'll figure it out, right, Ricardo? All right, I'm not giving you guys any problems, right?
Why is he going to the hospital? Oh, man.
Shawanda, you're not helping.
I'm just trying to figure out
Once my partners get over here, they can explain to you guys, okay?
We got a make on the vehicle. I'm with a tan SUV at Lowry and Fifth.
I'll try to get that. Twelve's gonna be out with 22. Copy.
He needs his phone.
Where's his phone?
It's in the car.
We'll take the car, okay? Nope, I don't want you reaching the car, okay?
It's right there on the seat.
He'll get to his car once he's done with that, okay? His car is not going anywhere.
Trying to get his phone? Yeah, right here.
Don't go into the car.
It's the front seat, sir.
I don't want you guys going to the car. That's it. Well, once my partners come over here, you guys can ask, right? What? Just go straight, man. It's tight here. You guys good? Oh. I don't know.
Officer Chang, pausing the video for a second, you'd agree that the ambulance appears to be leaving at 1:30:21 on your body-worn cam?
Yes.
I was waiting for the 320.
Well, I did do a call back to get that information.
That shit bogus, bro. You such a man, you about to have a meeting. I didn't want the whole thing, bro. That's why I ain't saying that.
Here's a book, man. Yeah, are you guys good with these two?
I'm gonna double check. Lane time.
Here's a book. Here's a notebook.
You want to get his phone in the car?
Yeah, it's right there on the seat.
His phone.
Sir, that's your...
He's already gone. He doesn't need his phone. Is that his phone? Put his phone back.
Yeah, put his phone back. He's gonna.
He's gone over. He went to the hospital.
Tell him where it is.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Put his phone back. That's it.
You know him, bro?
Yeah. What's
Okay.
up?
You might have called his family or something. I watched the whole thing play out. I ain't even...
What happened? Why he in the
I didn't talk to them yet. You probably did.
Okay. Did you ran him though?
Nope.
No, that man took our name.
So,
might have called his family.
supposedly you probably has his
What
ID.
happened to him?
Fucked up.
All right.
As a partner, you probably need something in order.
He fucked
Took
up.
your ID?
Yeah. He fucked up.
He's sick.
They kept it put on it. They kept it. I already know what happened.
What?
I tried to get him. I tried to get him to get in the car. I tried. I told him he can't win. Go on, get in the car. I kept telling him that.
Okay.
Bro, you can't win, bro. Get in the car. Because I know you can't win.
I don't need anything from them.
They're good?
Yeah.
Okay.
The two things
All right, you guys are good.
The two things I don't fuck with.
Well, he said you two are good, but I'm not too sure about this.
Can I take Sylvia on the phone?
What?
That's Sylvia's truck. That's our friend Sylvia,
Okay.
ex-co-worker. Well, let me try. If I get her phone, I can call her and tell her, sir.
Oh,
Her number
the car's
is
going to
in
stay
the
put
phone.
right here until we figure it out.
Well, you better lock it because his phone's sitting
I know.
right
Can
there.
I
Oh,
tell
oh.
Sylvia?
Just stay put. My partner's going to come back. I don't know. I don't know what the plan is with the car.
Hey, you mind if I just get his phone? Okay.
I don't want you guys touching the car.
We still can go, man.
Officer Chang, you'd agree that the timestamp on your body-worn camera when the fire truck arrives is 1:32 and 50 seconds Z, correct?
Yes.
I didn't hear nobody call for it. Different call?
I don't think it's related.
Okay. I think this car, when I got here, the doors were open, so they're involved, but I don't know. So, is he on his 10 days? Or?
I think they're done.
Okay. Are you still red?
Is that?
Still red?
Yeah. So, that group over is being hostile.
Yeah.
If you could let MMD know that EMS needs the fire needs to go to parking 36 and station in the full arrest now.
This also parking 36?
Can you advise the fire department if they're still with you, they need to go to 36 and park to assist with the patient on full arrest?
But no. I got to get him in the car. I got to go with you. Huh? Yeah, and I try to get in the car. I got to get him.
Officer Chang, you'd agree that now the fire truck appears to be leaving, correct?
Yes.
Timestamp on your video is 1:35:06 Z, correct?
Yes.
Are subject to the court's ruling. Now, a few follow-up questions here, Officer Chang, for you. It seems to me that you're walking around quite a bit. Can you explain why?
It's pacing back first to make sure that, I was concerned for the officer safety because of the crowd. So I just want to make sure that the officers were okay.
Did you observe other people at other locations besides where Mr. Floyd and the officers were?
You can say at least one at every corner of the intersection.
Did you observe people standing in the Speedway parking lot?
Yes.
And there were one or two people on the corner where you guys were?
Yes.
And at least one person across the street to the west, right?
Yes.
Southwest corner. Now, in terms of the general area, would you describe that as a pretty busy intersection?
Yes. Traffic and foot traffic, yeah.
So a fair number of cars, vehicles traveling through that intersection,
Yes.
as well as a fair number of people on bikes or on foot walking past.
Yes.
All right. Ultimately, did this pretty much end your involvement in this case?
Yes, that's correct.
So you pretty much went back to your regular duties with the park police, correct?
Yes.
All right. Based on that, Your Honor, I have no further questions.
Cross-examination.
Good morning, Officer Chang.
Good morning.
Just a few follow-up questions for you. In the video we just watched, at one point when you were talking with Officer Tao, it sounded to me like you asked him, "Still red?"
Yes.
What is that? What you said?
Yes.
What does that mean?
If his body camera is still on.
And so you were asking him if his was on.
Yeah.
And that's because you had yours on still.
Yes.
And so, Officer Chang, when you're working for the Minneapolis Park Police, you go through the academy with city police recruits, correct?
Yes.
And at that point, when you're going through the academy, do you know whether you're going to end up in the park police or the city police?
When you first start the academy, you already know who. Sorry, you already know who you're, I guess, working for. Yes.
So, as far as you know, those recruits, you could be working with them someday in the future.
I guess on a straight, I mean, if we patrol the same area or precinct, yes, but.
Right, but when you start, you could end up being a city officer just like them.
No.
Okay.
So initially when you first start, I guess you already get the offer from the employer. So I already received the offer from Minneapolis Park Police prior to starting the academy.
Okay, now I got it. So when you're in the academy, you know you're going to be park police and the others may be city police.
Yes.
All right. But when you get out there on the streets, while you monitor the parks, you also have authority to assist with calls outside of the parks.
Yes.
So in terms of an average shift, let's say, how often do you do this where you assist on a city police call?
Not often, unless we're close by, unless we don't, I guess there's no calls at the parks, but we pretty much keep ourselves busy with the park system.
But if you self-assign to help a city call, you're not going to get in trouble from your supervisor for that.
No.
Because that's all part of your responsibilities. You're allowed to do that.
Yes.
And in fact, when you're doing that, when you're working in the park police, you have the same radio traffic. You're able to hear the same radio traffic as the city police officers.
Yes.
And in fact, I think we heard you refer to the city officers here as your partners, correct?
Yes.
So when you're there, you look to them as your partners in working this scene.
Yes.
And you would suspect that they feel the same way about you, I assume.
Yes.
Okay. And with this particular call, you heard a request for backup, right, on this call?
Yes.
And because you heard some noise in the background, you decided initially to go lights and sirens.
Yes.
And to self-assign, I think, was the term you used.
Yes.
Okay. And at some point, though, on your way there, you turned off your lights and sirens, right?
Yes.
Okay. And that was before you actually arrived.
Yes.
And when you arrived, I think we even heard as you're pulling up, the officers already assigned call code 4, correct?
Yes.
And what is your understanding, or back on May 25th of 2020, what was your understanding about what code 4 means?
Scene safety.
So it's under control, correct?
Yes.
All right. And when you got there, you get out of your squad car, correct?
Yes.
And you see 2 city officers,
Yes.
and one who you later find out is Officer King
Yes.
is speaking with Mr. Floyd.
Yes.
And Mr. Floyd is sitting on the sidewalk against the dragon walk.
Yes.
He doesn't appear to be threatening in any way at that time, does he?
No.
Doesn't appear to be agitated or upset in any way at that time.
No.
So right there sitting on the sidewalk, he was pretty peaceful.
Yes.
And when that happened, you never heard the officers call for a code 3 to other officers responding.
No.
So they did not call the code 3, correct?
No.
That's we're doing this question thing. You heard later there was a call for code 3 on the ambulance, the EMS, correct?
Yes.
But there was never a call for code 3 for the responding officers.
I don't believe so, no.
And when you arrived and got out, I assume you were trained to assess the situation, correct?
Yes.
And you did that as you're getting out of your squad car?
Yes.
And when you did that, did you hear Officer King ask Mr. Floyd for his name?
I did, yes.
And you heard Mr. Floyd give his full name,
Yes.
spell it,
Yes.
and his date of birth?
I believe so, yes.
And then you were asked to run that through your system, and you were able to do that, correct?
Yes.
So, then you observed as the officers, Lane and King, walked Mr. Floyd over to their squad car, correct?
Yes.
And that's when you decided to move your squad car over to that area, correct?
Yes.
And your intention there was to help those two officers with what they were doing.
Correct.
But as soon as you got out, they asked you to go watch the scene by the Dragon Walk with the two passengers.
Yes.
And you did that. You then walked back over to that location.
Yes.
And once you walked back over there, you really couldn't see what was going on with Officers Lane and King and Mr. Floyd in front of the Cup Foods.
I believe at that time they were still, still had Floyd against the car. I believe during that time, yes.
Okay, so against the driver's side of their squad car.
I believe so, yes.
But once you walked over to the far side of the road, over by the Dragon Walk, you could no longer see what was going on with Mr. Floyd.
Yeah, yes.
You indicated that the crowd was getting louder and more aggressive, correct?
Yes.
And but you knew that there were now 4 officers over at that scene, correct?
Correct, yes.
And so your main focus was on watching those passengers.
Yes, in the car.
And you assumed when you were doing that those 4 officers were okay over there because there were 4 of them, correct?
Yes.
And if they had radioed for help, you would have heard it over your radio.
Yes.
And they never radioed for help, did they?
No.
I have no further questions, Your Honor.
Anything further? Thank you. You're excused.
Thank you.
Members of the jury, we're going to take a 10-minute break while we check the availability of the next witness. It'll probably be our last break before we break for lunch. And Counsel Chambers? Nelson, you may call your next witness.
Your Honor, for the record, the defense recalls Officer Nicole McKenzie.
We'll just read it, yes. Raise your hand. You swear or affirm under penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth and nothing but the truth.
Yes, Your Honor.
And let's have you state and spell your full name again so the court reporter has it.
Certainly. Nicole, Nicole, last name McKenzie, Mackenzie.
Okay, Mr. Nelson.
Thank you. Good morning, Ms. McKenzie.
Morning.
Officer, I apologize. I'm sorry. You've previously testified in this case, correct?
I have.
And just to refresh the jury's recollection, what is your role again with the Minneapolis Police Department?
I'm the medical support coordinator for the department.
Okay. And in terms of...
Actually, could you take your mask down?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. In terms of the training that you provide to officers, fair to say that the training consists of both academy training and veteran officer training called in-service.
Yes, sir.
And in terms of the training that your department provides, does your department provide excited delirium training to officers in the academy?
In the academy, yes.
And that's not something that routinely is given to the veteran officers?
Correct.
All right. Now, you understand that Officer Lane, who is a part of this case, recently attended the academy.
Correct, yes.
And he would have seen the materials that the Minneapolis Police Department provided relevant to excited delirium.
Yes, sir.
And you've had an opportunity and you've reviewed the PowerPoint presentations that are prepared in that regard?
I have.
Do you want the instruction?
Members of the jury, you're about to receive evidence regarding excited delirium training that was received by Officer Lane at the Police Academy. This is being offered for the limited purpose of explaining why he used the phrase excited delirium on May 25th, 2020, and what that meant to him. This is not being offered as state of mind or knowledge of the defendant, since we have no indication in the record that this defendant, Mr. Chauvin, took this training. So accept it only for that limited purpose regarding Officer Lane. Mr. Nelson.
Thank you. So just going to show you, this has been pre-marked as Exhibit 1053. Does this appear to be the training materials the Minneapolis Police Department provides for officers, cadets in the academy?
It does.
Does it, and just skipping through, does this appear to be a accurate copy of that?
It appears to be so.
And I'll just kind of scan through fast. To be pretty much the entirety of that training?
It looks like it, yes.
Okay. And can you just describe for the jury generally what excited delirium is as you train it?
Certainly. It's a condition that's a combination of a variety of different medical issues that are happening at the same time. This could be something like psychosis, agitated delirium. It could be a pressurized speech, incoherent speech, superhuman strength, hyperthermia. They could all be present.
Okay. And does the Minneapolis Police Department train cadets? What types of things cause excited delirium?
In a general sense, yes. Okay. It's a combination of pre-existing factors. It could be cardiovascular disease, also illicit drug use, and also mental health diagnoses.
Okay. And in terms of the signs that officers are trained to look for, could you describe what those are?
Yeah, we do use an acronym to correlate with that, and we use the acronym of not a crime. So there's varying different things you might see if somebody's presenting with excited delirium, like the person, because they are experiencing hyperthermia, meaning excessive temperature, they might be removing their clothing, they might be speaking incoherently. Whether it's a bystander or the caller, they might describe the person had just snapped. And if I could reference my materials, I can go through them a little more in detail.
So for purposes and subject to the state's objection, the defense moves to introduce Exhibit 1053.
Subject to the court's rulings, 1053 is received.
You see the first letter of your acronym, not a crime, before you.
Yes.
And what does that stand for?
The patient might present as naked or sweating, removing their clothing.
Okay. And the second slide being, or excuse me, the next letter being O.
Yes, and that's objects exhibiting violence towards objects.
Okay. T.
Is tough and unstoppable.
And that's what you described as like superhuman strength.
Yes, sir.
A.
The onset is acute.
What does that mean?
And that's where somebody will say the patient just snapped.
Okay. So it's rapid or fast?
Right.
C.
The patient is confused. Might be speaking incoherently.
R.
Resistant.
And define that?
That the person will likely not be able to, they don't have a capability about them to respond to commands, to comply.
Okay. And I?
Incoherent.
And how would you define incoherent in this sense?
If somebody's like experiencing some level of psychosis, they might be talking about complete nonsense. Their words just don't even make sense, and there's really no dialogue you can have with them, meaningful dialogue you can have with a person.
Okay. And M?
That'd be mental health. The person or callers have some kind of information that leads to believe there's some mental health issues going on.
Okay. And E?
And that EMS should be requested early.
It's fair to say that if an officer suspects excited delirium as occurring with a suspect, there are certain steps that they are encouraged to do, correct?
Correct.
Can you define what an officer should do if they encounter a suspect they suspect is suffering from excited delirium?
Definitely get more resources started, because you might need more resources than you would think. And then also having EMS stage at a safe distance away until the situation's under control.
And obviously attempt to control the subject?
Correct.
Through physical restraint?
Yes.
It's fair to say that once a person is in handcuffs under the excited delirium, you train officers to put that suspect in the recovery position. Agreed?
Correct.
And what would be the purpose of bringing EMS on scene?
Because people that are experiencing the excited delirium syndrome, they can rapidly go into cardiac arrest.
And that's how you train Minneapolis police cadets, correct?
Correct.
Now, again, as far as veteran officers, they may not see this particular training materials, correct?
They would not.
But is excited delirium a subject that is discussed in in-service trainings generally?
It has been in the past, but that was not with the medical support team.
So in terms of use of force or other questions or other areas of training?
Correct.
Okay. Your Honor, I have no further questions.
Mr. Frank.
Thank you, Your Honor. Officer McKenzie, I have just a few follow-up questions for you. So the basic training on excited delirium with cadets or recruits, is what to look for,
Correct.
and then secondly, what things they can do.
Correct.
And one of the things that they are told to do is to put the person in the side recovery position, correct?
That is correct.
And that's to help facilitate breathing.
Yes.
Because excited delirium, if it exists, could compromise proper breathing.
Absolutely, yes.
And officers, both in the academy and veteran officers, are trained on CPR.
Yes.
And so they are also trained that they have an obligation if someone becomes pulseless or unresponsive to initiate measures such as CPR.
Yes, sir.
And that would be true of, as I said, veteran officers as well, correct?
Correct. It's our policy.
And cadets like Officer Lane received CPR training, correct?
Yes, sir.
And an officer like Mr. Chauvin would have received CPR training on a regular basis.
Yes.
You were asked about the acronym to help identify potential markers of this condition.
Yes.
Would you defer to an emergency room doctor on whether someone is actually experiencing excited delirium?
Absolutely. It's not our place to diagnose that.
I have nothing further, Your Honor.
Anything further?
No, Your Honor.
Thank you, officer. You are excused now. Thank you. Your next witness is available after lunch. What time?
12:30, 12:45.
All right, members of the jury, we're going to take our lunch break and let's reconvene at 1:15. We'll see you then.